Let's see how much you remember from this. Remember, this is based off the bell curve. Of course, the center of our bell curve is always what number? The mean. 50% if you're looking at percents, yes. Our mean in this case is 76. As we go out in each direction in steps, how far do we go each step? The standard deviation, which in this case is 9. So 78 minus 9, this would be 69, 60, 51. Going this way, it would be, oops, I put the wrong number in the middle there, didn't I? Why did I put 78 in there? Let's try that again. That should be 76, so this should be 67, 58, and 49. That look better? Okay. Going the other way, 85, 94, and 103. What percents go in each of these spots? What goes in here? $34.13, yes. And that goes on both sides. What goes here? $13.59% on both sides. Next one out? 0.15, yes. So 2.15. And on the outside? 0.13. So what we have here is, first what's probably been between 60, or percent, would be between 67 and 85. That's from here to here. That looks like, if I add those up, 68.26%. 58 to 76. That would be from here to there. That would be 47.72, yes. What's that? 1.3 and 1.3 make 2.6. Yeah. That's okay. Greater than 85. That goes from here on up. That's just adding up these here, which would be 15.87. And from 0 to 76. From 0 up 76. 76 is the mean. That's going to be 50%. That's exactly half. We're going to assume it's impossible to have a negative score on the test. Any questions? Okay, well, the good news is we're done with statistics. We have 2 weeks now of merchandising, and then we're going to have 2 weeks from tonight, of course, is Unit 2 test. But we break up merchandising into 2 different chunks. We have a store of some sort in the middle of this mess. On one side, we have customers, and on the other side, we have suppliers. That supplier could be the manufacturer, or it could be just a wholesaler or distributor that buys it and distributes it out to stores. So what we're going to concentrate on tonight is going from the supplier to the store. One of the first things we're going to look at is that sale process. That sale is governed by an invoice. But there's part of the sale that takes place before the invoice and part that takes place on the invoice or after the invoice. So before the invoice, before anything gets put on the invoice, there are discounts that are applied. Those discounts are called a trade discount. There's several different reasons and types of trade discounts that may occur. You may have a trade discount because you're a good customer. If you buy enough volume, a supplier will give you a discount because they know they're going to make money off you every year. You're going to buy a certain amount, so they can give you a little bit of a break to keep you buying just from them instead of going to other suppliers. Some suppliers will sell directly to customers. So if they're selling directly to customers, they charge a little bit more than if they're selling to a retailer. They give that retailer a discount so that they've got room to make money off the product. There might be promotional. You might have a new product you're trying to sell, so you offer an additional discount on it. So the way it works, of course, let's say that you receive you receive a 9% trade discount. How much do you pay for merchandise priced or listed at? List price is what it's listed as, but your discount comes off of that list price at $4,200. So you're going to literally receive a 9% discount. Now this is just like the discount increase and decrease problems we did back in Unit 1. We could find 9% of the $4,200 is the price that we're the full price. So that does match up with the 100. So 9% of 4,200. We cross multiply and divide. 9 times 4,200 divided by 100 is going to give us what, 378? So $378, that is the discount. So we want to know then how much is left. So $4,200 minus the $378 discount is $3,822 that you have to pay. That is what we call the net price. If you look at what happened here, though, just kind of similar to what we did back in Unit 1, we had a list price. That list price was the full amount, 100%. It was also $4,200. From that list price, we subtracted a discount. That discount was 9%. Excuse me. To get our net price. So our net price would have just been 100% minus 9% or 91%. So rather than finding the 9% and subtracting it out, we could have just found the 91% right away. Now we've looked at the rate method, and we're going to look at the rate method of percents a little bit more as we go on. I mean, so far what we've done mostly with our percents is we've done proportions. We would have done, okay, 91% is 91 out of 100. The 4,200 goes with the 100%, and cross multiply and divide to get our 3,822, which goes in there. But this is a calculation we're going to do often enough. It'd be nice to shorten it up. So if we were going to do this with our rate method, rather than using 91 over 100, we could have just taken our $4,200 and multiplied. What is 91% as a decimal? 0.91 gives us our 3,822. So this happens enough that it's easiest just to do it with the rate method. Quicker to do it with the rate method. So the way this works, it's the list price times 1 minus the discount rate equals the net price. So in this case, the list price was the 4,200. The discount rate, well, what percent discount do we get here? 9%. So the rate of that is 0.09. 1 minus 0.09 gives us the 0.91. That's 1 minus the discount rate. Then we multiply to get the net price, 38.22. So if you receive a 12% trade discount, find the net price of items listed for $1,800. So this is going to be $1,800. That is our list price. Times what? 0.88. Perfect. We have a 12% discount. 12% is 0.12. 1 minus 0.12 is 0.88. Perfect. If we multiply that out, what do we get? Perfect. $1,584 is our net price. Do you have any questions on that? Okay. Well, often you will get multiple trade discounts. So let's say we're dealing with a supplier who does sell direct to customers or will sell to retailers. So you receive $8 discount for being a retailer. You receive an additional 7% for being a high volume customer. You might even receive an additional 2% for a promotion. Maybe they're having a buyer appreciation month. Maybe they have a new product that they're trying to push. And if you buy that certain product, they'll give you a discount for a period of time. So here's the question. Find the net price of an item listed for $3,500. Now, if you look at this, well, these 8, 7, and 2, that's just 17%. Are we getting a 17% discount here? No. The discounts are not applied simultaneously. Simultaneously means all at once or all at the same time. That would mean you just add them together and use that total percent. They're applied what is called consecutively. Consecutive discounts are applied one after the other. The notation for this discount is it would be listed as an 8, 7, 2 discount. Now I'm going to warn you up front, this notation that looks like that, numbers with slashes, it's almost like a date. That notation gets used for about 3 or 4 different things in this chapter. So keep close track of those different things, and you have to be very careful with the context to see which one of those items that notation is representing at that time. So this is a trade discount, or what we call a trade discount, or sometimes referred to as a chain discount. Sometimes even referred to as a chain trade discount, but you guys get the picture. To find the net price, we would take our $3,500 list price, and we could apply those discount rates consecutively. 8%, what would that be represented as? 0.92, perfect, because 8% is 0.08. 1 minus 0.08 is 0.92. just like we did up above. We took the discount rate and subtracted it from 1 to get our rate, our net price rate. 7 is going to be represented as 0.93. Again, that's 0.07. Subtracted from 1 is 0.93. Or you can think of it as 7% from 100 is 93%, and then move the decimal point. The 2 is going to be represented as 0.98. Good. Again, 1 minus 0.02, or 100 minus 2 is 98%. Move the decimal. So if we multiply this out, we can do 3,500 times 0.92 times 0.93 times 0.98. Gives us 2934.71. I usually get this question at least once a semester at about this point in the course. Why did I round that off to 0.71? Exactly. It's money, yes. We rounded off to 2 decimal places, the nearest penny. I know it sounds silly, but you'd be shocked at how many times I get asked that question. Oh, I did, yes. Now, this number right here, these rates combined together has a special name. If I multiply those together, that is called the single net equivalent, or the net price equivalency rate. Every textbook calls it something different. Single net equivalent, sometimes called the net price equivalency rate or the net decimal equivalent. So there's dozens of different names depending on what textbook and who you're talking to, but they all mean the same thing, and they all have the same key word, net. They're describing the net price. So here, if I didn't have the list price and I just had my trade discount, I could find that amount. That would simply be the 0.92 times 0.93 times the 0.98. Excuse me, 0.838488. That is that net decimal equivalent. What that tells me is any list price. If I take any list price, I can multiply by that net decimal equivalent. And it'll give me my net price. Yes. Good question. If I multiply them in a different order, would the answer still be the same? Yes, it would. No matter what order I multiply them in, it's going to come out to be the same. Why does it matter what order they're in? It doesn't. It has to be consecutive. It just can't be done all at once. If I did them all at once, if I added them by all at once, I mean taking 8 and 7 is 15 plus 2 is 17%. That would have been 0.83, right? You notice this is actually slightly more than that. It's slightly different. That's what I meant by consecutive or all at once. Simultaneous, I guess, is the key word. So anyway, let's take a peek at a problem here. Let's say you receive a chain trade discount of, we're going to go 611.3. Find the net price of items listed for $8,000. I'll pause. Okay, so for this one, you could have very easily just done it all at once. Could have done 8,000 times What's the 6 going to give us? 0.94 times the 11 will give us 0.89 times 0.97 from the 3. That will give us the net price. But what I'm going to do is, before I multiply that out, I'm going to multiply just these 3 to get my net decimal equivalent. So 0.94 times 0.89 times 0.97. So 0.811502. Have you noticed how I've been rounding that net decimal equivalent? I haven't been, have I? I've been keeping it out right now 6 decimal places or more. Shouldn't go past 6 decimal places because I'll never give any problems to have more than 3 discounts back to back. But you do not round that net decimal equivalent unless you're told to do so, and that'll almost never happen. So basically, you don't round that number. So that is my net decimal equivalent. Tells me the net price if I multiply the list price by it. So that times the 8,000 gives us 6492.02. What's that? Okay. So yeah, 6492.02 is the net price. Any questions on that? So we've talked about that net decimal equivalent. There's also a single discount. I hate it when I start to lose my voice. There's also something called a single discount equivalent. I believe that's the term this book uses. It's sometimes called a single equivalent discount rate. What that tells us is that allows us to find the amount of the discount. To find the single discount equivalent, we first must have the net decimal equivalent. So in this case, the net decimal equivalent was the 0.811. The single decimal equivalent, or single discount equivalent, I should say, is equal to 1 minus the net decimal equivalent. Think about it. 100% is the whole thing. That would be represented by a 1. And we're subtracting out the net price percentage or rate. That leaves us with the discount. So 1 minus 0.811502 is 0.188498. That is my single discount equivalent. That would describe the discount. So for this particular problem, the discount could be found by taking my 8,000, my list price, times that single discount equivalent, 0.188498, which is going to give us $1,507.98. Does that make sense?
What is that last number? The 1,500?
That is the amount of the discount. And of course, that amount of the discount and the net price better add it back up to that list price of 8,000.
What are you doing that 0.188498?
That's 1 minus my single discounting, or my net decimal equivalent for the net price. I had this for my net decimal equivalent. I took 1 and subtracted that from it.
So, finding the single discount equivalent or just finding them?
You have to find the net decimal equivalent first, yes.
So that's only if they want to know what
The discount is. Exactly.
not in person.
There will be some, yeah, there will be some where they actually flat out ask, what is the net discount equivalent? Or the single discount equivalent. I'm boring terms, Scott, I'm sorry. So let's take a look at another example. Let's say you purchase items listed for $5,400. Your trade discount is $4,900. Find A, the single discount equivalent. B, the net decimal equivalent. And C, the dollar amount of the discount. And D, the net price. Now, this really isn't as hard as it looks. So finding that single discount equivalent. Remember, what do I have to know before I can do that? I actually have to know the net decimal equivalent first. So I'm going to have to find that first. And how do I find that? Well, from my trade discount. 4% gives me 0.9. Yeah, 96. There we go. And the 9% is 0.91. We multiply those together. .96 times 0.91 is 0.8736. What we just found there is the net decimal equivalent. Keyword there is net. So that is not our answer for part A. That's the answer for part B. To get the answer for part A, we need to do what? 1 minus, yes. Our single discount equivalent is going to be 1 minus 0.8736, otherwise known as 0.1264. That is the single decimal equivalent, or single discount equivalent. Again, the key word there is discount. That's going to describe the discount. So for part C, to find the dollar amount of the discount, which one of those am I going to use? Careful. Which one describes the discount? The discount equivalent. Single discount equivalent. What's that? No, that's B. A is the net price equivalent. The net decimal equivalent. No. B is the... Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Yes, I should have them listed in order, shouldn't I? You're right. Yes, it is A. I'm sorry. It's nap time. So, take our listed price of $5,400. Sorry about that. Times our single decimal equivalent. Hey, yes. So it's 0.1264, which gives us $682.56. Does that work? Sure. So again, the list price times that single discount equivalent. So now for the last thing, if we do the net price, we're going to do the list price, 5,400 times B, the net decimal equivalent. And that should give us
4,717.
perfect 4,717.44. That's the net price. So let's say you receive a trade discount of 1142. Find A, the single discount equivalent, B, the net decimal equivalent, C, the dollar discount on items listed for $3,600, and D, the net price on those same items. I'm going to pause this and let's try that in your notes. Okay, so as to avoid confusing myself, I'm going to put these in the right order this time. But we are going to have to find B first, the net decimal equivalent. And how do I find it? Point 0.89 is first, times 0.96 times 0.98. What's that give us? 837312. Perfect. So then my single discount equivalent is 1 minus that 0.837312, or 0.162688. So now to find the discount, which one of those am I going to use? 0.16, right? Yeah. So I have my list price at 3,600 times 0.162688 gives me how much? 585.68. Everybody agree? You look confused on it. Is it working for you? Or? No. Still haven't learned how to tell between the good confused and the bad confused. Find the net price. It's going to be the list price of 3,600 times the net price, the net decimal equivalent, 0.837312, which is going to be $3,014.32. Any questions? Okay, so that is before the invoice. This amount here, the net price, is what's going to go on the invoice. Now for the next portion of the class, we're going to be looking at what happens after it goes on the invoice. So this is all when the order is being placed before the order is actually set in stone and officially made. So the next part is now the order is placed, and now we're looking at getting the items from that distributor or manufacturer to the retailer. So the invoice contains certain information. One of the things it's going to contain is the net price. That's a big one. And we just saw that's not always straightforward. You have to calculate that using discounts. The second thing that's going to go on that invoice is always a date. In fact, often that's the first thing on there is the date. That date could be the date that the order is placed. Or processed. The reason I say that is a lot of times you see signs on an order on buildings of, especially banks, deposits made after 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. are not processed till the next day, or orders after this date are not processed. That is usually the invoice date. Unless it is modified. And we'll talk about modifying invoice dates later on tonight. Next, it's on there is terms of sale. The terms of the sale include several things. The first is shipping. Who pays the shipping? That all depends. That's got to be negotiated. There are two terms that are used here. Free on boards begins both of them. Well, there's free on board shipping point. And there's free on board destination. You'll probably never after this point ever see this phrase free on board written out. It'll always be FOB. So if you hear what's the FOB, that's what they're talking about. Free on board shipping point. Literally means it is free at the shipping point. Who is at the shipping point? The seller or the buyer? At the shipping point is the seller. It's being shipped from the seller. It is free there. So that means the seller does not pay. The buyer pays. Free on board destination means it's free at the destination. Of course, the buyer is at the destination, so it's free to the buyer. The seller pays. Most often, unless it is something that's been prearranged, kind of part of the discount of being a good customer is you've earned free shipping, or if you have an order over a certain amount, you get free shipping. Most often, it is going to be the buyer that pays. It'll be FOB shipping point. But most shipping companies, most distributors do not have their own shipping company anymore. When I manufactured a product and I had my own trucks and I drove it out to you, you paying the freight was no big deal. I collected the freight from you and I delivered the merchandise. Now that most shipping companies are independent from the manufacturer, most of the time what's going to happen is the seller prepays the freight and then the buyer reimburses them. And of course, that is FOB shipping point. So the buyer is paying the freight, but the seller still has to prepay it. Otherwise, the trucking company won't even load it up until the freight's paid in many cases. Also, part of the terms of sale We have the shipping there. There are the periods, time frames. Often, there is a cash discount period. Nope, this is still under the terms of sale. That's a period of time. We don't pay cash for anything. Once upon a time, a cash discount meant you walked into the store, you picked up the item, and you paid that day as you were getting it. That was your cash discount. But we don't pay cash for anything anymore. So the cash discount has become now a discount for early payment. So they might give you 5 days to pay the cash to pay and get the cash discount, or 10 days, or so on. And then there's also the credit period. The credit period is the length of time you have to pay before they're going to start charging you interest. Now, some companies don't give you that option. It is simply the length of time you have to pay or you're going to be delinquent, period. Think of your credit card. You get your credit card bill, you have till the 21st to pay it, or then they're going to start charging you interest on that balance. Kind of like that. It's that credit period. You have that long to make a payment before it's past due. And then also in our terms of sale, there are going to be modifiers. Modifiers change the effective invoice date. And we will look at those when we come back. It's time for break, so let's go take our break. We'll come back about 6:30 and we'll start back up.